Korea's back again, I see. It definitely is affected by the cold. It's affected by the cold and spicy food. And so yeah, it's just the other day it completely gone, but this morning I got up and it was all frosty and it was back. And I haven't touched alcohol for a couple of weeks now, and that didn't really seem to affect it. But I haven't had a curry, and you know me, I love curries and Mexican food and Thai food and spicy Asian food, and that definitely seemed to clear it up. But some people told me it's such a weird thing. It's affected by weather and everything, and it's a harsh sunshine this morning with a ground frost. So it's really. And I was loading up the van this morning, and I was taking it all out with stuff for going to work, and I was just it just I literally saw it go like that. So it's definitely cold related. But what can you do? Anyway, I've also been taking a lot of zinc in my diet. Someone told me that's a good idea, and well, I had been taking a multivitamin supplement that had zinc in it, but I've added extra zinc to that. Now I'm sneezing again. We seem to sneeze when I make these videos. Anyway, I hope it goes untie. Yeah. So, appropriate veneration rites at sacred sites. Very, very contentious issue, particularly here in Ireland, where there's a near civil war going on at the moment between sort of traditional Druids, Gaelic Celtic Druids, people who have set up Druid groups themselves locally and are practicing a strict Celtic Gaelic thing against Wiccans. And I'm definitely on the side of the Druidic groups, the Druidry groups, because the Wiccans have gone too far with some of the things they've done. They're performing Kabbalistic rites, which is Middle East, at places like Tara. And at Owen Negat Cave, especially, I found a pentagram. I was very annoyed about that. Owen Negat Cave is the house of the Morrigan, and Wiccans have been down there doing things like that. I Every time I go down the cave, I bring a black plastic bag with me because they leave all the rubbish down there, all their all the Wiccan witchy poo stuff, and I clean it up and take it away. There's also been cases where people poured milk and honey uh, over a standing stones in veneration of the Dagda and this thing. The thing is that when it comes to the megaliths, with the exception of the later Bronze Age ones, which we don't know the datings for sure, but certainly the Neolithic ones, they were built thousands and thousands of years before the Celts came to Ireland and before the Druids, before Celtic culture came to Ireland, should we say. It may have originated here originally. But we just don't know anything about the religious life of the people who built the stone circles and the stone monuments from the Neolithic, except that they did seem to have a cosmic law dealing with the solstices and the equinoxes, and we do know that. But in terms of how they related to them or saw them, we don't know. We don't. The Celts don't seem to have had a star lore that I'm aware of. Not in Europe or not in British Isles and Ireland. It didn't seem to have one. So, but at the same time too, I think the biggest problem is the material abuse of the sites. So, for instance, me as an Indo-European uh, pagan, Luciferian pagan, if I go to, when I go to sacred sites, Hindu temples, and so on in Asia, I do not go in there as me. I go in there as a respectful guest, abiding by their rites. So I'm not going to put a Celtic triple spiral or a pentagram, which also I would never put a pentagram, even though I'm a Luciferian pagan. I will never put a pentagram on an Irish site because it's just not appropriate. Now, again, I could have a Luciferian feeling at these sites. I could have any feeling at these sites. I could venerate in my heart Kali at these sites, Cthulhu, anything I wanted. It's private and it's not ceremonial with a group. And once I'm not leaving materialistic objects such as pentagrams and things associated and doing anything like lighting candles on the stones or pouring milk and honey on them to venerate Celtic gods when the stones are much older than Celtic gods. It's fine. Now, again, it doesn't matter where you live in the world. A sacred space is a sacred space. A grove in a city park, anywhere you want to go. A pond where you live, where there's beautiful waterfowl, birds, ducks and geese and swans. That's where you go. But you don't impose like so. You could suppose say you live in America and there's a place where there's swans in a park in a city, and you go down there and you can venerate the children of Lear. That's fine. But you can go to the beach and venerate MacManaman Lear, even, anyway, in the west coast US, sorry, in the east coast US, west coast US, you could go and venerate Cthulhu. In the Pacific, it doesn't matter. But I have a huge problem with people doing Wiccans doing ceremonies on the Hill of Tara. For starters, that is a pagan Celtic site. Absolutely, no doubt about that. It definitely goes. If it goes back to the Neolithic, it probably does. Actually, I think some of the monuments do. Some of the footprints of buildings do, and so it's been a sacred site forever. But it was definitely central to Celtic mysticism, as was the Rathcrogan Cruachan area where Owen the Gat Cave is. Very, very much Celtic paganism. And then you have Wiccans going down into Owen the Gat Cave and doing Wiccan Kabbalistic ceremonies. I don't care if they venerate the Morrigan or they venerate Hecate and bring that into it. It's, don't be lighting candles down there and leaving candle wax on the floor. There's two reasons for this. If that candle wax gets, you see, when you get into Oneghat Cave, before you get to the central chamber, you have to step down in the dark now. There's no lights in it. You have to bring a flashlight. A big drop if it's about 4.5 feet, and you kind of like get down on your hunkers and then you climb back up again on the steps. But if there's candle wax, if Wiccans are burning candles down there, the candle wax gets on the floor. And if that gets on the end of your boots, someone could be crying. At some points, the cave has an angle like this going back up to the surface. Somebody could have like a pair of not very good boots, like something like sneakers, and they could have candle wax on them, and they could slide down there and be very badly injured. And the next thing you know, what happens is the Roscommon County Council puts a gate on it and says visitors by appointment only. And that's what will happen. And that's why they're pissing me off. And one of the lads here, I know a guy called Con, who's involved with Druidry, Celtic Druidry, Celtic Gaelic Druidry. He's literally got having a full scale war with Wiccans over the hill of Tara. They they set fire to a big triple spiral thing. And there's specific rites within Celtic paganism of when you can and cannot light sacred fires. And they just went up there on some Kabbalistic date, Wiccan date, and set a fire, and they burned the grass as well. And it's this kind of nonsense going on, and it's a pain in the ass. And you know, I have no problem with Wiccans going to Rathcrogan. I've no problem with them going to Tara or anywhere else, or any stone circle or stones. But don't be burning candles or putting milk and honey. Don't doing any materialistic things. Leave things exactly as you found them. And if you're doing ceremonies involving flowers and flower petals, clean them up because it looks unsightly. Especially, but the last time I was down at the bottom of Rathcrogan, down the bottom of the cave at Owen and Gath, it was full of all flowers that had been like, and they'd just been scattered around, and they were being mashed into this mud at the bottom, and they were all mashed into the mud, and it looked really unsightly. And again, candle wax everywhere as well. And so that's don't be doing that, okay? That's just don't be doing it. And you'll get what you do is like there'll be an accident because of the candle wax, and we'll all be banned, because these stupid fucking Wiccans. And so appropriate veneration is important for lots of reasons. I think the most appropriate veneration is carry it in a song in your heart. Don't do big ass materialistic things unless it's a pran thing where everyone agrees upon him. And even then, I'm kind of disgusted by that. I'll give you an example. There is no way if I went to America and there was an Indian powwow, there is no way that I would join in that because saying to myself, "Oh, I should be here because it's multicultural and I'm pagan and I'm just like them." And no, that would be extremely offensive to the tribe, the Namaho, the Tomahawks, sorry, the Mohawks, or the the Shinnecots, or whatever the tribe is. Very, very offensive. You don't do that. Wouldn't do it in Africa, wouldn't do it anywhere else. Yet, you have, I'm not going to name a festival here, have everything like Afro-Brazilian dancers, African shaman, Peruvian people doing their Peruvian stuff, all kinds of nonsense, loads and all armies of Wiccan and celebrating the goddess and all this stuff, and it's all offensive because there was no absolute this particular festival in particular, like Stonehenge. There was none of these things there originally. This is just all in. This is an invasion. This is a political invasion, and it's sacrilegious, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't walk into someone else's religious space and start pushing my thing or demanding inclusivity. And we have traitors in our midst in the pagan community who can't get enough. A lot of them. Not only are they all Wiccans, but particularly the ones in the so-called Druidry community, particularly in Britain, we have traitors in our midst. And these traitors are obsessed with destroying anything authentic or anything that could be conceived as close to being authentic and replacing it. That's why they all dress like, and the ones in England all dress like Anglican bishops and everything. They really are. That's what they're doing. They're Christianizing the whole thing. So there's appropriate veneration. If you don't know, keep it in your heart. Don't bring anything materialistic in it, and don't encroach on anyone else's sacred space. Thank you.